Here we go. Enchanted. Oh my goodness. I actually haven't seen this movie in a few years. It's the same thing with the last video. I recorded this 2 years ago and I watched the movie 2 years ago, and now we're back in 2024. And I did rewatch the movie. And actually, I had a really good time. It was between this movie and another movie that I had in my crappy movie frame archives. And I wanted to watch the other one, but I also did not want to rent another movie. And I could watch Enchanted on Disney Plus. I forgot how I got Disney Plus. I signed up for some bullshit. Or maybe it was just a Disney Plus promotion. It's the one with ads, and I'm paying like $2 a month for like 3 months. I don't know why I would do that. I don't even be watching Disney stuff like that. But I'm like, fuck it. So Enchanted. Actually, I was rewatching it and I realized this was definitely one of my childhood favorites. You might have just heard a noise. It was my chair. I'm okay. Not that it matters. Yeah, so Enchanted, one of my favorite movies as a kid. I used to watch it all the time and I could feel myself literally tearing up in certain moments. I love the music in this movie. Amy Adams definitely did not disappoint with her vocals. Neither did James Marsden. I know y'all got beef with that man because he wrote an apology letter for a rapist. Um, for all intents and purposes, I don't want to talk about that, even though I just did. I want to talk about how he absolutely slayed this role, and so did she. And watching the movie now, I didn't realize how young they look in the film. Now, granted, I saw this movie when it came out in '07, and now it's 2024. And I'm like, it's not any crime that they've aged. They've aged incredibly, but I just didn't really register like how young they were. Also, too, I always get tickled remembering that James Marsden, I believe he was on the pilot episode of The Nanny. If not the pilot, he was definitely in one of those first four episodes. He was nobody important. I remember he knocked on the door. He might have been like a waiter or like a bellboy or some bullshit. I don't know. But this movie is great. It's also completely absurd, and it forces anybody of any age to basically throw all of logic out of the window. Even like one of the main characters has to do that. Like you have Giselle, and she's like in this cartoon world. What was it? It was like Andalasia or some bullshit. I keep saying in some bullshit because like what the fuck? Like what kind of name is that? And she's in some cartoon world where she hangs out with animals, has no family, and meets this Prince Edward guy, and then they're like they were both singing and they're like, well, you're singing and I'm singing, and I had a dream that I met a man last night that was the love of my life, and it must be you. Side note, him, like James Marsden and Patrick Dempsey, that's the right name, right? McDreamy. Both would be described as tall, dark, and handsome. And I just always think that that phrase is so funny. The dark means the hair, not the skin tone. And that's always kind of like thrown me off a little bit. But they would be described as that. And that's how she was kind of going off of from her dream. The prince saves her from some goblin, and now she about to get married to some dude she has only sang with. They've never actually had like a conversation. And then Prince Edward has a mom. No, 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 excuse me. She's a stepmom with boy mom issues and tendencies. She's like, no one's gonna overthrow me on this throne. And it's like, girl, what are you even doing? Like, do you even really give a fuck that much to be governing people? It just seems like you like to stalk Giselle, which is what she did the whole time, looking in water, trying to check on her and stuff. The gag is that the place that the queen, this woman, this witch bitch sent Giselle place, whoa. The place where what? The queen sent Giselle to the real world, New York City, so that she wouldn't marry her stepson. And then when Giselle was out there, she like actually found a guy that she actually wanted to be with besides Edward. And I'm like, honestly, if the witch bitch would have just played like godmother and hooked her up with McDreamy, then she really wouldn't have needed to have done all that extra shit, like turning into a dragon and trying to poison her. It was just she was doing a lot. I will say the cuntiest boy mom we've ever seen. I mean, the looks did not disappoint. The makeup did not disappoint. Susan Sarandon's performance did not disappoint. Actually, nobody's performance disappointed. Wow, this nose is diabolical. Oof. I know you're only seeing the early stages of it, but it does get worse. Look at me trying so hard. It's like I forgot the name of the channel. Um, Anyways, nobody disappointed in terms of performance. I believe that Amy Adams was nominated for a Golden Globe, but she absolutely did not win anything for this role. And if she did, then I clearly didn't do my homework, and I absolutely did not do my homework. But I can tell you, it was definitely an Oscar worthy performance. Um, she did an incredible job. And I've always felt that way, even as a small child, when I watched this film. And one thing that always stuck with me, one of her acting choices, were the hands. Like she always kept her hands curled and they were like kept tight to her chest. I don't know. I just really fucked with that acting choice. I just really fucked with it hard. The image that I'm drawing is when she's at, what's old boy's name? Robert. McDreamy plays Robert. She at his crib and she's in the wedding dress still looking out the window and stuff. And the whole beginning of the movie, I'm like, this girl is out of her mind. Like, granted, she's clearly a cartoon. And I think it's interesting that we never really explore like the cartoonists that would have made that world. I guess that would be stepping into God's country, I suppose. I suppose. Um, but nonetheless, the movie was great, and I still enjoyed it as an adult. And McDreamy's character is like us, the audience. Like, girl, are you for real right now? Like, are you being serious? Like, you're not dead ass. Like, you're dead ass though. Like, and what made the film fun anyway was Amy Adams' commitment to the character. I mean, like, if we didn't have a talented actress truly carrying this film, not that there was any parts of the film that lacked, her carrying the film did the justice that it needed for the audience to suspend their belief in the absurdity of this cartoon coming to New York City through a pothole and then shouting in the streets, "Where's my man?" Where is my man? Has anybody seen my man? Has anybody seen his crib? Yo, where am I? It was nuts. The whole premise is completely insane. But shout out to the screenwriter. I think his name was Billy Kelly. I only know that because of the end of the film with the credits, and I did look at it for a second. And that's because the film ends with Carrie Underwood taking us home with the movie's main song. What is it called? Like Ever After? I mean, like everybody came to do their job. They clocked in, they gave their hardest, they clocked out, they came back yesterday, they came back tomorrow, and the next day and they put in that overtime. Why? Because it was for the kids. And it was also for the adults too, because there was so many, elements in the film that was, I wouldn't say parroting, fairy tales. Can I say satirizing? Will that make people tune in more? I don't know. I'm not really using my brain that much right now. I just said yesterday when I meant to say the next day, but I will say something. So my thing is this, Giselle, I don't understand what was not clicking because Shawty was tuned in to the Snow White story. How do we know this? One, she was talking about how maybe I'll go stay with some dwarves because I hear they're hospitable. So she knows what time it is. When she came to New York City for the first time and she's walking Times Square of all places, and we'll get to that, she runs into this little person who literally emerges from under her fluffy wedding dress, and she calls him grumpy. So that means you're tuned in. You know the story, you know your history, you know the classics. That means that when you see an old hag trying to talk to you, step back. That means that when some weird, scraggly looking person hands you some sort of apple themed food substance, you step back. But no, she took the candied apple, didn't eat it, was handed an poisonous apple martini, didn't drink it. Now she didn't drink it because Pip, the the chipmunk, saved the day. But and then the third time she actually bit it. And I'm like, girl, first of all, this old lady definitely pushed you into a fountain, an endless pit of a fountain, into a new dimension. Be serious. And then you're gonna take something to eat that she gave you? Be serious. And another thing too, like when she went to the ball, I remember the first time I watched the movie, I was actually a little disappointed that she had like a modern dress. Like I thought she would have like showed out like with the theme of the ball sort of thing. but she did not decide to take the Bridgerton route. She decided to go modern, and that's because she went shopping with a 6 year old with a really nice taste in beauty and fashion. Also, there were other things that I wanted to say too. Oh yeah, McDreamy dating Adina Menzel for 5 years, and yeah, that was just weird to me. Just because like why don't you want to like be romantic with your girlfriend in 5 years and you talk about you want to get married? Yeah, okay. Um, what else was interesting? I remember when I watched the movie as a kid, I did not know who Adina Menzel was. And always my entire life when it comes to watching movies, I always love to recognize different actors from different things and connect the dots and stuff. And I did not know who she was. And I would always look at like her profile. Mind you, I was like 10 when this movie came out, trying to see if I could connect the dots of how I would know her. I hadn't seen Rent, I hadn't seen Wicked, I still have not seen Wicked, but I have seen Rent. Um, but anyways, it's interesting being an adult now, and I know exactly who that iconic queen is. I was about to say was. She is not a was. She is definitely an is. Yeah, I remember when what was it? Was it the Oscars when John Travolta just butchered her name? It was something insane. Oh my goodness. Also, too, you know what's funny? So you know how in the movie Giselle is like, "Look at me blending." Like I was really taking this seriously. Do you see that yellow crayon that I pulled out to blend her hair? Anyways, in the movie she's talking about the kiss is the most powerful thing in the world, and she was like super excited to like kiss Robert slash McDreamy, and I'm just like, oh girl, if you think if you think a kiss is something, I promise you there is a spectacular treat awaiting you. Look at me blending with the black crayon, girl. Most of this was spent me coloring the hair because I know we don't color the dress because it's white. So all of my effort went into coloring that hair. And I can tell you right now, I was definitely lazy and I did not do a background. I'm like, like I don't really want to do all of that. Definitely not. Oh yeah. So happily ever after, right? And she's like with McDreamy at the end. She gets like she opens her own like fashion store, like her own fashion boutique, and Delasia Fashions. And I just gotta say, that divorce attorney money must be super fucking nice. Because she had no work experience, no education, no nothing, no money. So I'm like, who paid for that? Her man did. And there's not a thing wrong with that. I'm just saying that divorce money, huh, them checks must clear every single time because I'm just like, wow, nothing looked cheap in that boutique. Nothing. Now, I am well aware that they did make a sequel called Disenchanted 2 years ago. Ironically, that would have been the same year I would have uh, recorded this drawing. That doesn't matter. Because I will not be watching the film. I heard it sucks. I heard it's bad. Um, and I'm don't really need much to tell me not to watch it because literally the whole thing with this first movie was that they do live happily ever after and they have a nice life living in Manhattan, being a cute family. That was the tea. That was the gag. That was the lesson, despite any skepticism or naysaying from the dreamy himself. And now you're telling me she becomes some evil bitch? Don't ruin the fantasy. You can give that to the new kids because I'm not going to eat it. Um, this movie was so good. Like, I wish I could be a kid again to watch it just because, oh my God, that nose. Sheesh. That nose is crazy. I wish I could be a kid again to watch it because there's just so much fun just automatically approaching things with a sense of disbelief. Because I'm like, what do you mean you just came out of a pothole and you're supposed to be a princess and you're about to get married and you're wearing this huge ass dress and you're talking about true love's kiss and you never had a conversation with your man? As an adult woman with education and who reads, I'm just like, girl, what are you talking about? Like, girl, get up. Now, what I will say is that I appreciated that she just became more human as the movie went on. Like, she started to think more and have desires. Oh, like that scene when her and McDreamy were like in his crib and they were about to go to sleep and he was talking to her about the Little Red Riding Hood story she was telling his daughter, and then he started pressing her about how he doesn't think that the prince is gonna come. And I was just thinking to myself, why are you pressing her so hard? Like the fuck you give a fuck about if her man gonna come get her or not? Like, what do you care? Why do you care? What do you care for? Well, I bring up that scene because I remember she like touched his like chest because he's wearing a robe, and like she was like literally touching his chest hair, and I'm like, okay, girl, you better learn about that treat that's bigger than a kiss. I really have to stop, just like I stopped the design because it's done, and this is what we. Oh. And it's funny because I also seem to have flipped the orientation. Why the hell would I do that? Maybe I was being lazy. I don't know. Thanks.
Até tazing.